Welcome to Monday. It's the 18th day of August, 2025. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at WyomingAdvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, desert air is moving in. Humidities are going to drop and thunderstorms will retreat far north and far east and far south as this desert air will be overhead for several days along with a large ridge of high pressure. So very high fire danger. We did see some rain fall on the fires burning in the Intermountain West this weekend. Not enough to put them out. Maybe they helped those thunderstorms, maybe they hurt, but there was some measurable rain in some areas, especially down in Colorado. But we're right back to the heat and dryness again. As you're going to see here, we're basically going to repeat what just happened. We go through a dry cycle, then the high pressure ridge builds and kind of sets up over the Four Corners area. Then the next cycle starts late this week and this weekend. This is something we talked about last week, about the high is going to sit over the Four Corners long enough that the circulation, the clockwise circulation around the high was going to have enough time to maybe bring moisture actually from areas to the east and bring it west. And we're still seeing that. It's still showing up at least the potential. And if that potential comes together late this week, next weekend, and the week after this one is when rain chances will return and maybe return to areas that need it the most. We'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Some of you probably saw these altocumulus clouds Friday and Saturday when the subtropical moisture returned, a precursor of afternoon and evening thunderstorms. And going back to Friday, some heavy downpours in the Black Hills of South Dakota, where the rainfall has been very plentiful at times this summer, and these big downpours enough to cause quite a bit of mud to flow around. Of course, the story this summer has been some folks are tired of the rain. Some folks couldn't get a drop to save their life. Kind of the Casper area, kind of the same thing. Storm clouds danced around, but really didn't produce much precipitation, but did produce a beautiful shot like that. Craig, Colorado finally got some measurable rain over the weekend with those afternoon and evening thunderstorms, and we did see some rain over the Lee and Elk Fire Mountains in Colorado this weekend, but now we're back to dry weather. The moisture is deeper out into the plains, as we can see here, a shot from Gordon, Nebraska, of some heavy thunderstorms right along the South Dakota-Nebraska border this weekend. And then some happy cows and some nice hay out there along the Bighorns. Pop-up thunderstorms in southeastern Wyoming yesterday on the back west edge of the subtropical moisture push. And then we can see another shot here in northwest Colorado, a view they have not seen much this summer of rain over the flat tops finally coming on in. Beautiful shot there in Pinedale where they're wanting some rain as well. And then a beautiful shot from some early morning showers that develop. That doesn't happen very often, but when you get these monsoon plumes, we'll have these clouds come in, and even in the morning before it starts to heat up, if the moisture's deep enough, well, then you get some morning showers. Nice shot there out of Monument, Colorado of calm waters there. You don't see that very much. Another shot of the Bighorns, and you can see the moisture in the air, at least the weekend, with that subtropical plume. And then unfortunately, a big fire building up, the Red Canyon fire just exploding across central Wyoming here over the last week or so. Thanks for the guys out flying and taking a shot here from tankers fighting the fire. And unfortunately, the weather over the next, let's say, 4 days is not going to aid the firefighters, as the dryness will continue with very low humidity. For those of you that want to track fire activity, especially in terms of where the smoke is going, I've got two links for you. That first link right up there is the photo I'm showing you, a screenshot of the smoke plumes. Now this will update. I don't know if it updates once a day or multiple times a day, but this is a good idea to show you where the smoke plumes are. And if you want to use satellite imagery, which is very good during the day, to use the visible satellite imagery, I know there's a lot there to keep track of, but that is probably, in my opinion, the best satellite link to use and go to. You want to use the GOES 18, GOES. Use the GOES 18 West satellite. Got to wait for the sun to come up for a bit and then look at the visible satellite imagery from that link, and you'll be able to see the smoke plumes very easily. Same old song and dance as we showed you last week. Thunderstorms around the edges. They continue at the night in the northwest Corn Belt and the northern plains. But here, as you'll see in the water vapor loop, here's that punch of dry air. So dry air is going to expand and really control the region for the next 3 days. Well, you're going to have moisture on the edges, down all the way in the northwest Mexico again, but the high pressure ridge and the dry desert air poking in is going to really limit thunderstorm activity. So this is where the high is going to be today. Here's Hurricane Aaron, and if you want to know where Aaron's going to go, it's a close call, folks. This is going to come maybe a little bit further west. We'll see here before heading out to sea, but there's going to be a lot of, let's say, some impacts from rough seas and maybe some coastal flooding here from Aaron, very big storm, but all indications suggest it's going to give us a glancing blow before it heads out to sea. Then we'll wait for the next one. So with the dry air punching in, this is where the thunderstorm activity is going to be today. On the edges, the deeper moisture is going to be out further east, out into the plains, and tomorrow and into Wednesday, you can see basically the thunderstorms are going to be in the same places with a lot of the central and northern Rockies and the Great Basin states in the southwestern United States, dry conditions. But there will be thunderstorms along the periphery, again here to start the next 3 days of the week. As we get into the end of the week on Friday, the high gets well established and really builds over the Four Corners area. So as we showed you last week, if you follow the wind flow around the high, it actually comes around, then back, then around the high again. Now, this only is able to pull moisture in from the plains if this high is here long enough, and it looks like it will be. So this is for the 22nd. Looks like this high is going to sit here for maybe about 6 days or so, so that will give it time for that moisture to get entrained. So if we look starting here at the end of the week on Thursday and going for about a week, you can see the precipitable water later this week goes green, blue, and white over the Great Basin and a lot of the Rockies and part of the southwestern United States, and this is over multiple days. Now, the last plume was only really overhead for a day and a half, but this one has a chance of being longer lived. Now, I'm going to be very cautious and give a disclaimer here. I'm going to show you some charts that I don't want to get folks too excited. So we have to take what I'm going to show you here with a grain of salt. But if we do see this high pressure ridge stay in that position for multiple days, it does have the ability to bring that moisture in and bring it into parts of the Intermountain West that really, really need some rain. We've got to wait for it. We've got to wait 4 or 5 days for the chances to really get better. But when we take a look at the European over the next 15 days, look at the western slope here of Colorado, southern Wyoming, into Utah and Arizona here. Now, the European model isn't really good at thunderstorms, frankly, in terms of the amount of rain that comes from them. So you, again, as I tell you with these models, you can't take them for face value. What you look here is what the overall message is. Don't look at the map and say, oh, I'm not going to get rain, or, oh, I'm going to get a lot of rain. What we want to see here is what the general idea is. The European deterministic model is showing a lot of that moisture finally getting west of the divide, so that's good. Now, you may say, well, there's no rain up here. Well, this is 15 days out, so we've got to be careful here. Don't say you're not going to get rain, especially when you look at the other tools. The AI version of the European model has been very consistent, and so I was reluctant to even show you these graphics, but it's about 4 or 5 days in a row of the models being very stable. So we'll just see. Mother Nature can change her mind. We know how cruel she can be, but we see this pattern evolving, and we do see that better moisture. We haven't seen a map like this all summer, especially in this area here. We just haven't. So, and one reason for that, as we told you in other videos, is that persistent low coming into the California coast, directing that moisture eastward. But that's gone. We don't have that, at least for a while. And another AI tool from the European model of the ensemble, you can see is more robust and more widespread with the darker blues here and also further north. So the general trend is that subtropical moisture and the moisture from the plains has an opportunity to come west of the divide late this weekend, and next week. So we'll just monitor it. It could change on a dime, but I'll tell you that for the last several days, the modeling has been very consistent, and it makes sense. There's nothing here that's out of whack. If that high sits there, and it will do this time of year late in the summer, where you kind of have let's say a monsoonal finale, it could come together, and we'll keep an eye on it. So between now and the middle of the week, very little going on. Any action is going to be in the longer term. Speaking of longer term, right at the end of the month, we see the high getting flattened out. That will extinguish that pattern that I just showed you. And we're at the end of the month. And look, we're starting to see blue and green up here in the higher latitudes. And this is a pretty active jet stream right here as we get to the end of the August and into early September. And we'll talk about that in future videos. Have yourself a great Monday.